change requested by Alderman Grant?
Aye.
Okay, then we're just going to go ahead and move on to the manager's report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. Beach projects and operations. The first project, the Army Corps of Engineers branch, they completed the navigation-related dredging of the Atlantic Intercoastal Waterway in channels to Jacksonville, which placed beach compatible material on Phase 1 of the shoreline. They started work on January 5th, and they officially completed on March 20th. They placed approximately 78,000 cubic yards of sand along the Phase 1 area. So this project has been completed. The project page was updated upon completion. Phase 4 project. Phase 4 beach nourishment is currently ongoing and is expected to pause once a work plan is presented by the engineer, and I'm happy to see Fran here this morning. So he'll be talking about more as a part in thoughts of a work plan to discuss with the board and finalizing the PTC 8 dune work. To date for Phase 4, we placed approximately 170,000 cubic yards of sand. Potential tropical cyclone number 8, which we refer to as PTC number 8. Weekly meetings have continued with FEMA representatives. Fran and I also completed an on-site meeting along the beach with FEMA's beach representative, and that was held on Friday, March 21st. We visited various locations to document. During the visit, it was relayed that any information we could obtain to show a threat to infrastructure would be helpful, could be helpful to plead our case. I provided a video of the roadway flooding, which is at Marina Way Breach, showed the location of a manhole, and then also requested at-grade and below-grade water and sewer information from ONWASA. ONWASA has been good at communicating with Fran and has presented that information, and that has already been shared with FEMA. And I believe the next step is we are going to get cost estimates on that for FEMA as well. FEMA also requested an additional analysis from our engineer. Fran updated the volume due to the fact that they redid the analysis based on the updated recommended FEMA methodology on wave run-up analysis during a 5-year storm. The 61,000 cubic yards estimate, therefore, may be increased to 82,845 cubic yards. Should we be obligated funds by FEMA, these additional cubic yards could be a future consideration of the board to be placed potentially next season. The additional cubic yards and estimate were written into the project scope that is pending my sign-off this week in the FEMA portal.
I have one question before we move off of that. So right now, in the worst-case scenario, the board had voted to move forward with that, potentially paying for that without being able to be reimbursed at our last special meeting. Would we move forward with the 61 or the 82?
We're moving forward with the 61,000 cubic yards.
Okay.
That additional 20-some thousand cubic yards will be a future consideration of the board that you would be able to consider. But based on the modeling that FEMA requested with wave run-ups, Fran had to do additional modeling, and that up the cubic yards to the 82,000 estimates.
So that recommendation would be that separate, the difference between the 82 and the 61 be a separate project?
It would be, we would look at the contract or a change order.
Thank you.
Okay, just to follow up if I can on that. So what you're telling us is the 2.9 that we approved is for the 61, right?
Correct.
Right. And so Fran then will resubmit the additional, or we're going to resubmit the additional to FEMA to see if they'll consider the other 20 based upon their new methodology. So all of that will go into the pot where we're hoping to be reimbursed, correct? Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, Alice.
That's okay. Okay, we executed the contract with St. Wooten as approved by the Board of Aldermen at the special meeting that was held on March 19th. A project page has been created now that the board has approved the contract and the project, and it will be updated as we progress. Work is anticipated to start in April, and the contractor will be accessing the beach at the Jenkins Way beach access. The proposed dune project continues to move through the process with FEMA for potential obligation of funds, as I had stated. Cost share project for beach plantings. I've coordinated another cost share project with Coastal Transplants for sea oats and bitter panikin. If you recall, last year we did sea oats. This year we added the bitter panikin to the project. This is an opportunity for North Topsail Beach property owners to purchase sea oats and the bitter panikin at a discounted price up to a limited quantity. The town is splitting the cost with residents 50-50. The project will be administered through Coastal Transplants. We did this last year, where in the past, the town used to administer the program and handle it completely. Last year worked out, I think, rather well with Coastal Transplants administering the program, so we're going to continue with that process. Delivery dates will be in May of 2025 and June of 2025 on the following specific dates: May 2nd, May 9th, May 16th, May 30th, and June 13th. Plants will be delivered to Town Hall for pickup on the selected delivery date. Anyone who purchases these plants must plant them on a North Topsail Beach property. There will be an inspection 2 weeks after pickup to ensure plants have been installed at the address indicated on their form that they fill out. The project will be live on Coastal Transplants website by end of day Monday. Once this goes live, the project details will be included on the project page of our website, so you'll be able to obtain additional information just on the plantings in general and tips for planting. Topsail Island Vitex Eradication Project. The request for proposals for this project was issued on March 24th. Bids are due on April 11th. Treatment may begin in May and continue until September 2025. In the meantime, we've developed an interactive map that shows properties identified with Beach Vitex, and there is an online form for property owners to fill out required forms for property treatment. Those forms and waivers will have to be completed prior to the contractor, whoever the successful contractor is, going on to these properties. All of this is excuse me, housed on the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection website. And again, this was a project that was possible because of the joint grant that the towns, North Topsail, and Surf City went in for with the state for a $690,000 grant.
Manager, I could give a little bit of an update to what you just said. That information is now live at tispc.org. And you can follow the progress of that Vitex project on the TISPC Facebook page. So it's live and ready to go.
Yes.
Do we have a link from our website to that?
That information was shared yesterday because it went live yesterday. So,
Thank you.
yep. The 25-26 budget. It's that time of year again. The budget calendar has been publicly noticed that we went over at the last meeting. Meetings with department heads have been completed as scheduled on March 6th and March 7th. The schedule of meetings is April 10th, April 14th, April 15th, April 16th, and again, the second dates are on an as-needed basis. So if we get through everything, then just as an example, 10th and the 14th, we would only meet on the 10th and not require the second day. So it just depends on how fast we work through everything and how many, questions there are. So, but we've allowed plenty of time, and there's time in here that gives us that we can schedule more if more are needed. May 7th, at the regular scheduled board meeting, there will be a public hearing on the budget. Per statute, the board must hold at least one public hearing on the budget. And then, of course, at the June 4th, at the regular board meeting, the budget will be considered for adoption.
Alice, before you move on there, for the meeting starting on the 10th, is the board getting a packet before then with?
You'll, your microphone. You were looking, the question was if you'll be getting a packet before the April 10th budget meeting. Yes, you'll be given information that will be reviewed for that meeting and an agenda.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know what date we'll have that?
You'll have that next week.
Okay, thank you.
But just from a process perspective, so that is basically our straw man that we'll be able to discuss with the different department heads as well as our town manager. It's not meant to be considered as the final budget when you receive that.
Right, but
Correct.
we'll get the packet early, and it'll have all the assumptions and stuff in it as well.
Correct.
Yeah, it's a workshop.
Yep, just like
Yeah, it's a
this.
workshop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
tentative agenda, if you will, was included on the original schedule that shows what the plan is for each day. So like the first meeting on April 10th will be, presentation by the department heads going over their requests. So as they go through the requests and the board provides input, that input is going to be directly inputted into those spreadsheets where it'll be real time, where adjustments are made based on board feedback.
So at that point, can all the department heads be ready to discuss where they are currently with this year's budget?
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Any additional questions for Ms. Darian? Okay, then let's go ahead and move on to our first open forum. Do we have anybody who has signed up to speak?
No one is signed up for the first open forum.
Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak? Okay.
They're probably waiting for Fran.
Everybody's waiting for Fran. So Fran is next for our Coastal Engineer Monthly Update.
Hello, everyone. The Lord. Yes, I was at the UNCW Coastal Conference yesterday, and so my site visit, kind of coordinated with something else. So I'm here to just kind of go over the beach projects and just add on to what Alice said. Next slide, Ricky. So here's basically the overview of North Topsail Beach from phase 1 up New River Inlet down to phase 5 near the edge of Surf City. There's beach projects planned for all sections, all phases of the beach. The core project up in phase 1, and we'll go through these individually, and with focus on the potential tropical cyclone 8, which is obviously the one where we're trying to get started here. We have the disposal area 143 beneficial reuse project, and that's coming up. And then the state grant, which is ongoing in phase 4, and then the phase 5 that was completed recently last season. Okay, next slide. And as Alice mentioned, the core project has been completed. You can see here in the middle photo that they didn't really even get to the Topsail Reef condos. But they did place that material. I was out there this morning. It did fill in pretty well to the Topsail Reef condos, and it does actually look kind of nice right now, this section north of Topsail Reef condos. And then Topsail Reef condos themselves, they have redone their sandbags, and they had added a bunch of sand. So that kind of acts like a big headland feature, and so that does afford some protection to the properties to the south and the north, and sand can stay there because there was, even to the south of Topsail Reef condos, there was a little bit of dry beach even at high tide today, so that was good as well. This is still kind of overall on the disappointing side, where this project used to be able to even make it to the St. Regis a few times, but it hasn't really gotten down that way in the last
Why is
6,
that,
8.
Fran?
They're not finding as much sand, and it must just be the sedimentation, in the intercoastal waterway and the channels to Jacksonville. And I was talking, and then the town has done some cedar bush cut projects that are about 100,000 cubic yards, and that is eligible for the shallow draft inlet dredging fund. So it can be kind of affordable, and that's really, we're just trying to figure out how to afford all this sand. So that is something we could look at here to try to bump up the numbers that we're getting from this area. And
Remind people that on that fund, 3-to-1 match, is that what it is?
yes, 75%. Yeah,
3-to-1.
yeah. And it's well funded, and so it might be a good idea to look into that. And that is, it's not a whole lot of sand, but it could help. Next slide, Ricky. This is the Phase 5 project. It's been holding up well. It actually, during PTC 8, it actually gained sand, ironically. But, it's that good material, that ST Wooten 421 sand. It's, good color, good coarseness. It's performing well. And then next slide. Here we have, and as Al's mentioned, the Phase 4 project. That's pretty much as soon as right here on the island. It's working south of here. They've got 230,000 cubic yards about where we're planning for. They've got about 3,200 feet left, and they've got still about 50,000 cubic yards of material that they've got to put out there, and then there's a little bit more to that, but. So it's progressing well. It is the same contractor that's doing, ST Wooten is the one doing Phase 4, and they're also the ones who won the dune restoration project up, in phases 1, 2, and 3. And so we are trying to juggle that here in this April about when to pull them, when to, finish this project and then go and work on primarily the really vulnerable areas north of the pier, where we're at most at risk for a dune breach, where water can get and damage homes, damage property, get in the roadway.
Before you leave that, just real quick, is it okay, Mayor?
You're going to ask the same question I have.
All right, which is, okay, so we talked before about, the different options out there, and what you just said before, we only got the permit yesterday.
Yes.
1, 2, and 3. And I noticed they're still working on 4.
Yes.
So what you're looking at is the worst areas up in 1, 2, and 3. So maybe we can do more in 4, but you're not gonna know until you work with the contractor, right? 'Cause
Correct.
We'd ask you, and I think
Correct.
we talked about this before, you're gonna give the board some kind of written
Yes.
recommendation and memorandum as to the right way to handle this, right? And
Yes.
then maybe that's something we can publish, so that,
Yes.
because I get so many questions about this, Fran, and I'm sure you do.
Sure.
Like, just, we need to know where we are.
Yeah. So yeah, when we did just get the permits yesterday for the modification to work in phases 1, 2, 3 dune restoration. So that's good, but we still have to do some pre-survey work, and that's happening this week. And then we have to resubmit to the permitting agency and CAMA permit, mostly. But
4's going forward. You're not stopping.
yeah, so 4 continues to work. The contractor will just from here on out until April 30, and then we think we should be able to get an extension into May for the FEMA project, not for the state grant project, and that's just the programmatic biological opinion issue. But yeah, the ST Wooten will continue to work on Phase 4 until they can until we can figure out a way to just really repair the most vulnerable sections of dune that are, some of the sections of dune up there now.
Marina Way.
Yeah, Marina Way, Barton Bay, Topsail Dunes, where there basically is really
No
almost
dune.
no dune at all.
So Fran, we had set the worst case scenario for the remaining owners in Phase 4 after the last board meeting, because I think it was the appropriate thing to do.
Yes.
So it sounds like we're still not able to commit to exactly how far we're going to be able to get, but you're just going to keep it moving.
Yes.
Until we're ready to move on to the dune.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and it is.
Is there an anticipated date for when you're gonna?
It
transition?
probably will not be next week, but we're thinking maybe the last 2 weeks of April to go and work on the dune system and really get the most vulnerable sections of dune
Okay.
completed.
Okay. Thank you, Fran.
And then the next slide we can go over. And then this is just more of the Phase 4, 3,200 feet left work. The beach looks good. And then obviously we want to get this project done, and we realize that it's just a difficult situation here. But we're going to continue to work on Phase 4 until we can strategically hit some of the areas that have no dune at all, in north of the pier, essentially. Next slide, Ricky. And then here's a disposal area 143, where they're going to pretty much that old disposal area. There's a lot of good sand in there. You know, probably around 2 million cubic yards of material. I did talk with Chris Gibson yesterday. He was at that UNCW meeting. He said they are going to get their pre-application notification in here soon. So that's good, and that will just get this project in front of the regulatory agencies to kind of get it on their radar. They'll be prepared for it. Yeah, that's a huge amount of material. Yeah, and that's more of a beach. That will be a beach and dune, but it'll be a nice big beach project. The phases 1, 2, and 3 haven't had really a big beach project for about 8 years now.
Right, but that's separate and apart.
Yes,
from
that's
the
separate.
2.9 that we just.
That is separate, yes. This is more the PTC 8 stuff is really just a dune restoration. And then we can go to the next slide, Ricky. And here's the PTC 8. The way FEMA does these calculations, and we've been working with the FEMA beach staff, and and as Alice mentioned, we had a site visit with them, and we walked the most vulnerable areas of the beach, including the Topsail Dunes, Marina Way, Barton Bay. We went up to just the St. Regis area, and just kind of showed them the infrastructure, and they really are just trying to figure out. They have got to justify the cost of the project with the potential damages of a 5-year storm, and that's just the way the regulations are written. So that is what we're doing with the 5-year storm calculations, and seeing if this dune can hold up to a 5-year storm. A lot of spots, the dune system can hold up to a 5-year storm. There are obviously some spots that cannot, and those are mostly north of the pier. Next slide, Ricky. And so here's just the dune losses. The FEMA, as I mentioned to Alderman Grant, they changed up their preferred methodology in terms of looking at wave run-up and even just dune calculations, and so we had to redo them, and actually it came out a little bit more favorable. Now with that, and then on WASA, we've been talking, and they've been pretty responsive, and I talked with them on Monday, and then they gave us some more information yesterday about all the utilities and things, because a lot of this area up here, the roadway is the first thing that, if the dune fails, the roadway is the first thing to be damaged, the first piece of infrastructure. So anything at grade or below grade that could get damaged, FEMA wanted to know about, so they could include that in their damage cost assessment. And they do seem to be helpful, and they were really trying to be a proponent for this project, so that was good. And we're just continuing to talk with ONWASA, and they're going to get us some costs here about that roadway. And then even in the future, you can see the Outer Banks with Highway 12. DOT does a lot of coastal engineering to protect that roadway. For up here, I know we haven't really gotten into getting the DOT involved, but that roadway is, the first thing along, especially the Barton Bay Marina Way, where it does seem like it would make sense to bring in DOT to, and have them protect their infrastructure. And that's something in the future. Yes.
So, Fran, I will say, we bought our house on Marina Way in 2005, and they had recently lost that whole dune before we purchased. And when we purchased, they put the dune back, but it was just literally a pile of sand. So that dune had held from 2005 up to today. So,
20 years.
yeah, it was a long time. Yeah. But it's gone now.
Right. And then there were a few spots I remember after Florence where there was actually even a beach access up that way, and but that was a private parcel. But okay, next slide, Ricky. And then this is an overview again of the PTC Dune project. The Jenkins Way access would be their primary the truck access for north of the pier, and I just have the pier called out there. And then we're going to really try to just work on the areas where there is no dune at all, and then that will be later this month, and that's what I'm planning, but I've still got to coordinate with the permitting agencies and the contractor, and the surveyors were out there this week getting us, new data every 100 feet. So, that is ongoing, and I can, as soon as I do a little more coordination, I can get a more solid timeline for the board. And then we can go to the last page. The beach updates, the core project, we went over that. The New River Inlet Management Master Plan, the environmental impact statement related to, the terminal groin and other alternatives. That has been submitted and it is under review, and it should be out here. I have not gotten an update from Emily or Mickey, but we will get that here, an update. The state grant nourishment in phase 4 is going well, and then we're working, continuing to work on the PTC 8 and the disposal area 143. That's moving forward with the pre-application scoping meeting should be here soon. And then we're just going to continue with the North Topsail Beach, the finance officer, DEC associates, and Deborah Mack with just trying to all the accounting and getting everything in order, and then just continue with grant coordination and permitting coordination for all projects. So that's the update.
Thank you, Fran. I'm gonna just ask the board members if
Sure.
anybody has any questions. I'm gonna start Connie up your way.
No, thank you, Fran.
Okay.
Mike?
Thanks,
Okay,
Fran.
Tom?
Yeah, good report, thank you, excellent.
All right, go ahead, Laura.
Fran, on the phase 5, phase 4 projects in the past, were any of those inclusive of putting up sand fencing?
No.
Okay, so if we're seeing sand fencing down there, that's private?
Yes.
That people are putting that up in those areas?
Yes. Yeah. No. Yes, they are.
And so do they have to get permits or do anything to do that sand fencing?
Yes.
Okay, and who do they go to for that?
Yes. The local CAMA rep.
Okay, and if we're seeing sand fencing that has not been permitted,
Yeah, because even yesterday walking the beach, I saw some. Yeah, some because of the turtles and getting caught. Yeah, there's some regs on leaving gaps and V formations and that sort of thing. And I did see a few that maybe were not compliant with
Okay.
some of the CAMA protocols.
so citizens need to know they just can't go put sand fences through the new seagrass that we planted or up on the dunes.
Without a permit.
right,
without a permit.
right. Some coordination is necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just real quick, so I'm in 3, so you're basically telling me you're gonna ignore me again since I'm south of the pier. I'm messing with you, it's
For
fine.
it-
To me, I told you, my best outcome is we finish 4 and get the bad stuff done up above, so.
Yeah, and then
come
the three and obviously right, it relatively speaking, but yes, the dune is in okay shape there, and even the Onslow County Beach Access 4, which we've always had problems with, even that is hanging in there. But that will next season we do have that planned for restoration.
Thank you, Fran.
Okay,
Appreciate you
thanks.
seeing. Yeah, great report.
In person works well, Mayor.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the consent agenda. Do we have an approval on the consent agenda? Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. So then after that would be continued business. So Alderman Benson, Onslow, Shellfish, public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to bring everybody up to date, back in September or so, our board passed a resolution to request the state legislature to impose a moratorium on new shellfish leases in Onslow County, as well as Pender County. The other 2 towns on the island also passed similar resolutions, and both county commissions, Pender and Onslow, passed resolutions. So we have followed this up with the Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission, and our representative Carson Smith was in favor of putting a bill before the House for a moratorium on shellfish leashing in the two counties. But during our discussions at the TISPC meeting last Thursday afternoon, we learned that he had pushback on that proposal. And so he came back with the idea that he would put a bill in that would lift all moratoriums in the state of North Carolina. The TISPC discussed that further, and the consensus outcome was that we would still request that Representative Smith put in a request for a moratorium in Pender and Onslow County. So that's where we are legislatively. The House bills have to be introduced by today. 400 had been introduced as of last week. They expect 2,500 bills that the legislature will consider this year. So I don't know at this point what position Representative Smith took for us on behalf of the moratorium. Okay, so that's an unknown. But the agenda item that I'm speaking about today is Marine Fisheries is holding a public hearing for 6 new shell leases in Onslow County on April 22nd. It'll be over in Holly Ridge at the Community Center. Our board is opposing new leases because of the conflict between recreational users of public waters and the shellfish leases that restrict access to public waters. So the agenda item request is the document that you see in the packet, which is basically the content that Manager Durian wrote in her letter to Senator Lazaro requesting the moratorium for Onslow and Pender County back in September or October of last year. It adds an additional couple of paragraphs to talk about the proposal by the Coastal Federation and the NC State Sea Grant Program for a grant to NOAA that would try to bring all the stakeholders together in terms of shellfish aquaculture program and come up with a resource guideline to try to ameliorate these conflicts between recreational users of public waters and shellfish industry. And of course, we all support aquaculture. It's just the number of leases, 6 new leases in Onslow County. I looked up some statistics. There are 111 leases in Onslow County. That's the second most in the state. There are 209 in Carteret County, but Carteret County now has a moratorium for Bogue Sound, so they can't put more new leases there. We have 647 acres of land in those 111 leases. So my request to the board is, and I don't know if you want a motion or just a consensus, that we put this document in as a public comment for the Marine Fisheries hearing that's coming up in April 22nd to show our concern about the number of new leases that are going in and where they're going to put them. So that kind of concludes my item. How would you like to proceed?
I would like to look to council to see what's appropriate there, consensus or motion.
Just for clarification, Alderman Benson, are you referring to the document, the letter that Alice drafted and the resolution that was passed? Or what, when you say document?
That was the original document that we sent to our state representatives. But what I'm proposing, the document that's in the board packet, it is mostly from that letter, but there's 2 additional paragraphs. The one paragraph talks about this joint grant proposal Coastal Federation and Sea Grant are trying to put together to bring the stakeholders together. And the last paragraph of the letter just says that all 3 towns and 2 counties have requested a moratorium on new leases.
I think it's appropriate that you entertain a motion to essentially have the board adopt this position and give the authorization for the mayor, Alderman Benson, or the manager to submit this document to that public comment period. Since what you're doing is you are speaking on behalf of the board, I think it's appropriate to do it in a form of motion.
Mike, can I ask you a clarifying question? I like that, I'm all in favor of that, but were you also saying that we could post this on our website with a link for other people to comment along with it?
No, not at all. I was talking about the Vitex project when I was talking about the Shoreline Protection Commission webpage. This is entirely different.
So, Mike, do we have anybody going to that meeting in April to speak on behalf of our board?
I'm looking for volunteers.
That's the one it was in Holly Ridge
Holly
again?
Ridge, right.
I went to the last one, if I'm around, I'll go.
Okay.
And you
We
said that
need
was April
volunteers. We
20th?
need a volunteer.
Well, I'll make the
I
motion.
think we should submit this electronically ahead of time because
Yeah.
the website for the meeting, you can submit a comment, but it's like when people stand up in the audience and give a public comment, it's not a formal comment. And the way the web form works, you can't submit this document that way to show our letterhead and yada, yada. So I think if we have a motion and it gets approved, we should submit this document to the chair of Marine Fisheries that's running the meeting.
So do we have a motion?
I'll make
I
the
would make-
motion that we submit the letter as provided in the board packet up through the chain, approve it and submit it.
Alderman Plato, did you want to go second since he beat you?
Sorry
Okay.
about that, Connie.
Any additional comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna move on to new business. I had you down on my notes under,
Oh, I had it a continuing.
did you want, okay, that's fine, we can do that.
And Laura already got a little bit of what I was talking about. I'm having a hard time reconciling the financial reports we've got to our budget. And so what I'd like to be able to do is I would ask, and I think it's too late for the 10th one, but I plan on submitting information that I would like to have as part of the budget process, and I would suggest maybe that we all do that. And for example, the one that we talked about last time is when you go back and look at the ordinance and the budget that we passed last year, we only had, where is it at? I just wrote it down here. We only had budgets for, was it 3, 10, and 12? So, 10, 30, and 12. And so, remember last time we talked about why do we have all these different beach project budgets and sitting out there? And I'd like to figure out as part of this process, and I think it's too early to do it on the 10th, but to get some guidance as to why we need 3 separate funds like that. So, because to me, if we're spending it on the beach, having the move money back and forth between projects like we've done before didn't make any sense to me.
And I believe we talked about that at the last meeting, and that was something that
Hopefully
Manager
gets on the
Darian
budget.
was going to be investigating why
Right.
we have the 2, and do we actually need the 2? Because Tom thought 1 was for the USDA loan previously.
It could be, but I'm just telling you, if you look at the ordinance that we passed for this year's budget and for the budget, we didn't have any of that stuff in there. All we had were those 3. I just think we need to clean it up going forward. And the other thing, and I'll be submitting this as comments, is, like I said, I mean, and again, some of this stuff is nits, and I'm tying it back, and I know I spend way too much time on this stuff. But for example, in the board package, she listed on there under general fund, said, so we're talking about, I'm just using interest as an example, and it says, we had, let's see, so it said the budget is $427,000. That's not the budget we approved. The budget we approved have revenues of $200,000 for interest. And so the statement that says that we're looking at $627 in interest coming in, she had as $149,000 of her budget. It's $427,000 over budget. And those are the kind of things I want to be able to reconcile in there, and I think that'll come from the assumptions. And there's other things in here that are not tied back to the budget that we've got. And so that'll be part of the budget discussion. But the other thing too is I would like, and look, these reports have are a lot better than what we used to get, in a lot more detail, which I appreciate. But the other thing too, I'd like to have, and I'll put it in my comments, is I would like to have, she does a forecast of what it looks like for the rest of the year. I think we need to have that, and that'll tell us kind of where we are cash-wise and everything else theoretically at the end of this budget year, so we can take that into consideration as we're putting the budget together for next year. For example, if we're gonna be short, then we need to do something.
Yeah,
If
we
we're not,
typically do.
instead of everything, we haven't done that. That's the problem.
We do have a forecast and where we are year-to-date actual when we go into the budget meetings. We do.
Right, no, we had where we've never had something that I've seen that said that here is what the numbers are this year, right? And we take this year's budget and we say, next year is almost a standalone. It doesn't say that we've got, I've never seen, until now, I've never seen a cash report that we've had until the last two meetings. And to me, that tells the story for us. I would like to see, because she's already doing it. She's forecasting. She said, look, if you've got 3 months left in the year and you hit your budget numbers, you're going to be over or under. That's perfect. And then we can do a snapshot telling us at the end of the year where we are. I just think I would like to have that, and I'll put the comments in. But again, I'm getting into way too much detail because it was a very detailed report, but there's a lot of things here that do not tie back to the budget numbers that we've got. And so I just want to make sure going forward, we can tie everything back in. This is 100 steps ahead of where we were a year ago. All right, I just want to make sure we close the loop on this stuff.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just a comment.
Okay.
So as we're doing that, I'd like to tie it back to the GL numbers, that are associated with the budget accounts.
Yep.
So when people are speaking, whether it's department heads or whatever, they do need to know which GL account we're talking about, because that's how we're allocating funds.
That's a good point.
Okay, we ready to move on? Okay. Okay, under new business, this is Manager Darian, and this is for the registration and sponsorship for the NC Beach Inlet and Waterway Association, meeting May 8th and 9th in Emerald Isle.
Yes, the North Carolina Beach Inlet Waterway Association meetings scheduled for May 8th and May 9th in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. We always historically have went with the silver level sponsorship, which is in the amount of $1,200. That covers the cost of 2 registrations. I have reached out to the board to anticipate how much attendance we would have. We've got 4 people that have indicated the willingness to go to the meeting. Mayor Pro Tem Leonard. I'm looking at Mike and saying, sorry.
Tom, Mayor Pro Tem.
Alderman Grant, BISAC Chair Larry Struther, and myself. So those 4 people have signed up thus far to go. So if you can, there's a motion there, if you choose to do so, to approve the sponsorship and attendance at the 2025 Byway Conference.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The second item is also Manager Darian, and it's the request for proposals. So I'll also turn that over to you.
Yes, and I prepared an agenda item list to just give you some background history on this for the packet. The Local Government Commission recommends that the town solicit proposals for audit firms every 3 years. History goes back 2014 to 2017. Carr, Riggs, and Ingram were appointed by the board. 2018 to 2020 with W. Green LLC. And then, of course, most recently, 2021 through 2024 has been Price, Scott, Adams and Company auditors. The audit for 2025 will require a single audit, as federal expenditures will be $750,000 or more. Should the board approve the solicitation of proposals that's been presented, we have scheduled an RFP release date for April 4th, which is this week. Deadline for questions, April 15th. Deadline for receipt of proposals, May 6th. And then board approval consideration approval will take place at the June 4th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, awesome. Miss Arian, the finance officer position pay grade.
Yes, thank you. So the board at the last meeting approved moving forward with MGT Associates, which is a recruiting firm to assist with vacancies. In doing so, it was also requested that we look as we go through this process of salary grades and pay bands that are currently in place, that the board could make changes to those if necessary, if you feel necessary. In going through the finance officer's position, there's been a recommendation to increase that grade. The current grade, which is at a 19, which is 61,589 to 95,432. They had suggested that we increase it to a minimum amount of 100 to 105. So what I am proposing at this point, based on the analysis that they did in the study that I'd provided to the board, and then also in reviewing current salaries within our surrounding area, the recommended grade would be 24, which is 78,579 to 121,797, which will allow for, that gives leeway and based on someone's qualifications, and then also, you know, as we move forward, give us some room as we continue with pay studies in the future.
So do we just need a consensus? Is that what you need from the board, or do you need a motion?
I need you to approve.
A motion?
Yes.
Okay, so, go ahead. Well, no, we need to do the motion and then you can do questions. So do I have a motion to approve the change in the pay grade?
From
make the
19
motion.
to
24.
24.
So I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, now any discussion?
Yes, what's the next pay grade up?
20,
25.
which is, I'm sorry, you mean after 20?
Yeah.
Okay, 25 is 82, 508 to 127, 887. So
What's the next one after that?
26 is 86, 633 to 134, 281.
And that's 26?
Correct.
Oh, I think it says 86. Oh,
26.
26.
86 is the range.
I think that's more our range to get someone.
So I have a motion and I have a second. So does somebody want?
Oh,
Go
I
ahead.
would like to add I don't think, my concern on this type of thing is, we go out and we recruit, I know the headhunter came back and said, and so we get, let's just say we get 4 candidates, 3 of them are Cs and one's an A, and the A is outside this range. I think we need to be careful. This is very important to us. I would propose that at a minimum, we go to the 26 range on this thing, up from 24. It's a bottom, we're not gonna get anybody for $86,000. I mean, at Onwassa, we're looking at an engineer, and they had to pop an engineer up with 5 years' experience to $125,000 because they haven't gotten anybody to apply. And so if we do a range, if we were doing the range, and I think she's acted in good faith in putting this out, understand a range is a range, and the top range is 86 to 134, so in theory, you could get somebody for 86. They're gonna find out what the market is, but I would like to do that rather than having to have you come back to us because some candidate looks better than that. So I'd like to your thoughts. I think you'd rather have more than less, right?
That's fine
Is
with
that
me.
okay?
Yeah.
So my thing would be, I would like to make a motion that we move
So you
it
want
up
to
to
increase it
26.
to range 26?
Yeah, which is 86 to 134. I mean, that's a huge
From
range.
19 to 26.
Yeah.
From currently
19 to
it's
26.
19
to
and
26.
You all right
increase
with
it
that,
to
Laura?
26?
Yes, I want to go to the 26 range.
Okay, so does the first motion, do we,
So there's a motion on the floor to bring that range to 24 if Alderman, and I believe it was Alderman Leonard that made that motion, if he wishes to amend his motion to raise it from 24 to 26, then he can do that. And then there's a second, there can be more discussion and
Okay.
vote on that amended motion.
I'll do that. I'll amend the motion.
I'll continue my second.
okay, then, any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Going
Okay.
once.
All right, and then also, Manager Darian, you've got the solid waste recycle and collection agreement and a request for a motion.
Yes. So I also provided some background on this. As you know, there's been a lot of background work going on in the past recent months to get to this point. A request for proposals was issued in December 2024 with a deadline to submit proposals on January 3rd. Proposals were received from the following vendors: GFL Environmental, While Recycling, Tons of Trash, and East Coast Consolidated. The Solid Waste Review Team, which consists of representatives from North Topsail Beach, Surf City, Topsail Beach, and Holly Ridge, completed an evaluation of the proposals that were submitted on January 13th, 2025. Following an analysis of pricing, vendor experience, and overall performance metrics, the Solid Waste Review Team unanimously recommended GFL Environmental as the preferred vendor for shared solid waste services across the 4 towns. GFL is also in attendance at the meeting today. They have representatives who handle the government contracts for GFL, so welcome to them. Thank you for coming.
Talking trash.
In accordance with the stipulations set forth in the RFP and the signed interlocal agreement between the towns, each individual town will now proceed to enter into separate contracts with GFL Environmental. These contracts will clearly outline the terms and conditions specific to each town's respective service requirements and expectations. I've also provided attachments is the price comparison worksheet and the proposed contract for the board to consider. I do want to just highlight key points, especially for residents who, don't want to necessarily maybe read all of look for the important bits in the contract. Key points, rates are depending on, of course, the number of carts. Right now, rates for residents are $17.85 per month. That is what they currently pay. The new rates will be split between their 6 months season, 6 months off season, summer season, $17.85 a month staying the same during the off season, and then May through October, when that service doubles to twice a week, it would go to $29.77 per month. One change. Yes, one change in the billing that will take place will be, right now, you receive $17.85 straight per month throughout the year. It'll be broken down where you would get a bill for $23.81 per month, and then, yes, it would just be based on the service. So it would just be a little bit different, $17.85, and then, $29.77 per month during the summer season. So with the increased service.
So it's 23 on average during the year.
Correct, $23.81 if you were looking at an average, just to give you a comparison from the $17.85 going to an average of $23.81 per month average. Service days remaining the same. Wednesdays with Saturday service. One thing we did add to the contract is for bulk pickup. This is not vegetative pickup, but a bulk pickup for items such as household furniture, lawn furniture, mattresses, things of that nature. That the town is going to be planning to include that in the budget cost for spring and fall pickup. I have spoke with GFL on what estimated costs will be. You'll see the breakdown in the contract of per hour on what the costs are, but not knowing, because we haven't done this in the past, just looking at Surf City as a higher end, we estimate that it could be $3,700 per pickup or $7,400 per year. So that is the cost of that service.
Okay.
If there's any questions.
Well, let's move forward with a motion to approve the agreement with GFL to provide solid waste services for North Topsail Beach.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion? No, I do want to thank you for coming today, though. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're moving on. Okay, E, this is Alderman Grant, Onslow County Water and Sewer update.
Just to give everybody a heads up as to what's going on, Onwassa is getting ready to spend a ton of money. We just approved at the last board meeting $50 million to upgrade the sewer system. That's gonna allow coming in, and then there's also a planned one. I asked the chief engineer there, they're also going to be doing more of an extension down here. The idea is to double the capacity of the sewer system to be able to come down here. So you're talking probably another $18 million. That's in the planning stage right now. They're also, from the water standpoint, because of all the growth that we're seeing and everything else, and what I've been pushing on behalf of the town is reminding Frankie and the board, and he's been very, very gracious on this, is we're at the end of the straw. And so if they're drinking all the water and taking all the sewer before it gets to us, we got a problem. We're also still going forward with the engineering study on putting a water tank up on, apparently it's county property up in the north end, to be able to put a water tank on there. And that's gonna be helping with the pressure that we get especially during the high season. So just giving everybody a heads up, there's a lot of work going on. You were on the board too. Literally, they're gonna have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars over the next couple of years because of everything that's going on in there. The growth here, but frankly, we're small potatoes compared to what's going on in Sneed's Ferry.
And I do think when we spoke with Senator Lazara, he was thinking that potentially there may be some bill to help with the cost of the water tower, so I'm
Well,
assuming
that's the
Frankie's-
idea, is to see if, and Frankie's pushing that to see if we can get them to pay for the water tower.
That'll make our fire chief happy too if he gets a water
That's on.
tower.
If people have questions about that, send me questions online. You've got rather than going into all the details of the Onwassa stuff, because at our board, nobody shows up at the Onwassa board meetings. Except for the minister that gives the prayer, so, other than that. But I'm just saying, there's a lot of stuff going on, and they've had some real problems with Summer House, and the system up there, which is the lesson, when somebody wants to give you something for free, figure out how expensive it's gonna be.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to the second open forum. Do we have anybody that signed up, Ms. Darian?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob Gherkins, 142 Ocean View.
I think we're turned on, okay. I'm obviously here on behalf of Ocean Sound Village, basically 31 lots in which we have 19 oceanfront. If in fact this Phase 4 project doesn't get to the end, we're the people that are going to be impacted. And so obviously we have some concerns. We accept, of course, the need for dealing with critical dune issues in the north end of the island. I guess my concern and my comment is really on the lack of planning that has got us in this position. I know the Phase 4 project, my understanding is, I should say, is that it started 2 weeks late because of some issues with your contractor. That contractor stopped and after a period of time, and then we lost another 2 weeks while you changed contractors. The problem up at the north end was one that happened in September. We've now just got around to deciding we're going to fund dealing with that issue. We're not waiting for FEMA money. We're using the funds that have come from the tax base. A large portion of the tax base, or at least a significant piece of the tax base, comes from Hampton Colony and Ocean Sound Village, where some of your biggest ratables. That is the money, part of that money is being used up in the north end. We accept that. It needs to be done up there. But the lack of planning and the timing is the box we've got ourselves into here. And I also will point out that when you approved the dune work, the critical dune work that needed to be done after the September storm, you neglected to include Phase 4, even though Phase 4 lost its second most sand of anyone from that storm. So we're in a situation where we may not get our beach nourishment, and we apparently would not get dune restoration either from the funds that you have allocated. So they are our concerns. At the same time, let me also point out that I've been in this community for over 3 decades owning property. I've had a house here for over 2 decades. So I've been around a long time. And I want you to understand that my comments are really in the basis of you can do better. But at the same time, I think right now, the team, the aldermen here are a lot more professional than we've had in that time frame I've just mentioned. I think your town manager is outstanding, maybe the best we've ever had in that time frame. So please don't take my comments as totally negative. I think you folks are doing a good job, but you need to plan a little bit better on some of this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Daring, do we have anybody else?
Ms. Ward's raising her hand.
Come on up.
As long as it's not about phase 4, Terry.
Terry Ward, 154 Ocean View Lane. I just had two things. Clarification on the plantings for the sea oats. Last year when we did it with Coastal Transplant, there was also the option that you could pay extra, work through them for them to plant it. Would that still, and then still participate in the 50-50 cost share, would that still be?
I will touch base and ask them. That's not in the proposed plan that they provided, but I can ask them if they'll be willing to do that again.
Okay. All right. The other question I had just came up with GFL. When you said it was per container, does that mean the cost would be per container for trash and then another fee for the recycling? Or if you have one of each, that's one?
That was a combined monthly rate for a trash cart and a recycling cart.
Okay.
So you get 2.
Okay. Thank you. My last question or issue was, and I echo Bob's comments about Phase 4. Do we have a plan, or will we have a plan to finish Phase 4?
Oh, yeah.
Because I know on the slide, Phase 4 is listed for having the most, or the second biggest loss of dunes from post-tropical storm 8. So, like, will we be working on that? Will that come before BISAC? Will it come, how will we do this plan, and what will we do? Because, as Bob said, we're very concerned because we don't have a lot of beach. The tide comes right up to the dunes and it's still eating away. And I personally lost about 8 feet of dune. So that has me a little nervous coming up on hurricane season. So if we can get through this hurricane season and you can't finish, what would be our plan then for the fall? And is there a guarantee that that we would have, that you would finish Phase 4? I mean, that's the
So,
other thing.
I think, Terry, what the board can commit to is that we'll continue to work with our engineer, Mr. Way, on planning out everything that we need to do for the beaches, including making sure that Phase 4 gets finished. But as you see, we had the best intentions this year, and then we had the tropical cyclone came through, and, you know, we had dune breaches.
Yeah.
So there's always a possibility that we've got to pivot projects based on need with
Yeah.
her, yes. So, but we'll be doing
Yeah.
our best,
And
and we'll
I-
continue to work with Fran, and we'll continue to get
And
those
I
updates.
understand that because with Florence, we had a dune breach too.
Exactly.
And so I understand that wholeheartedly. I'm just afraid I don't want another dune breach because
Well, we don't either,
you know, and
anywhere.
that's a big problem. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say something really quick?
Sure.
During the comment period?
Yes. Basically, on that slide, it does calculate dune losses from PTC 8 when we get the survey. FEMA methodology, again, doesn't really even care about dune losses. They just say you need to run a hypothetical 5-year storm, and if that dune system holds up, then we are not going to mitigate. So I can change that slide on here from here on out. It really isn't just for the engineered beach. A lot of times out to the depth of closure, you can just say this much material left the system, and they're fine. For these dune projects, it's we do that volume analysis to show them, but they say we actually don't even use that in our calculations. They just want to see their run-up analysis and standard 5-year storm. And and a lot of the Phase 4 shoreline, that dune did hold up to that 5-year storm analysis. So that is a key. But I agree that it's a little misleading.
Before you leave there too, I think the way that Bob presented it,
Yes.
understand that the money that we're spending in 1, 2, and 3 on this, we are asking FEMA to reimburse us with the assumption we're going to get the money back. It's not like we're just spending the money and hoping that it's gone. He was talking about spending money.
Yes.
The reality of that is, we believe, based upon the meetings and everything else, we've got a pretty good shot at getting that money back from
I
FEMA.
would not, the concerns that have been raised is because it's in a Cobra area, that is a concern. And that's what I've been saying, that there is no guarantee. And we are
Yes,
asking
yeah,
for it and doing
and as far as we know,
everything that we respond to every request for information that they provide, and
yes.
that's all we can do
And-
is keep
right,
moving
and
through the
obviously-
process, but no guarantees.
Yeah, no guarantees. But that is the plan, to get that FEMA mitigation.
Okay, thank you, Fran. All right, we're just gonna go around and see if the attorney has anything to report.
Nothing to report this month, Madam Mayor.
I'm sorry, I forgot to ask if anybody else wanted to talk. Usually the Myers do get up and say something. I'm sorry. No? Okay, everybody's quiet today. Alderman Plettle?
I want to thank everybody for coming out or watching at home. May is coming up. The 1st of May begins turtle season. If you have an oceanfront home, you might want to consider putting in oceanfront turtle-friendly lighting. We have a beautiful display in the back that shows how it works, and we sell it here, sell the light bulbs here at Town Hall and also at the Turtle Hospital. I hope everybody has a really safe and great Easter, and we'll see you during the budget meetings.
So, Alderman Plettle, on that note, will we be doing, or Alice, you may know, Turtle Talks again this year? When do they start?
So we are planning on, the turtle people are planning on asking permission to do the turtle talks here at the town hall. The town has been a friend of the turtles for forever. It's really been a great partnership. It usually will begin either at the end of May or beginning of June.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Benson?
Thanks, Mayor. Thank everyone for coming out, and I publicly want to give a great round of appreciation to Town Manager Durian. She has really had a lot of things on her agenda, as you can tell from the meeting today, and she has done a really wonderful job in responding to each of these issues that have come before the town in the last few months. So thank you, Alice.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank everybody for coming out. I want to echo my friend Mike Benson's comments about Manager Darian doing a hell of a job. Keep up the good work. Last month I spoke during this during the manager's or the board members report period about how our COBRA bill was going to get filed by Congressman Murphy any day. I got home from the meeting that afternoon, had an email that it had been filed last month, that day, the date of our last meeting, on March 5th. It is House Resolution 1885. It is entitled The Town of North Topsail Beach Coastal Barrier Resources System Map Amendment Act of 2025. If you go to the town website, there's a link to the .gov, congress.gov link to our bill that you can keep tabs on the progress of the bill. As of right now, March 5th, it was filed by Congressman Murphy, co-sponsored by Congressman Rouser. On the same date, it was referred to the House Committee on Natural Resources. We will be meeting when we go to Washington at the end of this month, the 27th through the 30th. We will be meeting with representatives from, along with meeting with Congressman Murphy and Congressman Rouser and our senators. We will be also meeting with individuals from the Natural Resources Committee and more than likely scheduling a point in time for someone to go up and testify in front of the Natural Resources Subcommittee. And so hopefully this time we're gonna hit a home run. We're at the same time talking with folks in Senator Tillis's office about a companion bill on that side of the House. We'd love to see the two bills move simultaneously through the process rather than going through one and then getting it having to go through the other. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Ashevsky?
Thank everyone for coming out and listening online. I just want to mention fire safety. Hopefully our fire safety folks are here. I was driving the beach road the other day and noticed renters having one of those small metal fire pits on a deck with open flames under a roof. So I would ask everyone to talk with their renters and know that there are rules around having fire pits and having open burning on decks, and to check with the town so that we don't have some fire issues this tourist season. Thank you.
Alderman Grant?
Just thanks for coming, appreciate the time. That's all I had. Happy Easter and see people on the 10th.
So from a mayor's report, I just want to echo also the board comments, and thank you so much, Manager Darian, for all that you're doing. And with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to go into closed session.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
And I don't know what do I need to, the general statute for the closed session, it would be what for this one? NCGS 143-318.11a?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And sub 3.
Sub 3. Okay, thank you. All right, so I have a motion, a second, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'll make a motion for us to come out of closed session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have an item.
Sorry. Oh, it's just a small item. Okay, so the action requested is the mayor to ask for a motion to approve the proposed amendment for legal services agreement to amend not to exceed fee from $36,000 to $84,000 per year for our legal services. This year, the agreement is in effect. For every year, this agreement is in effect. Do I have a
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Any discussion?
Only that it's not to exceed.
I thought I said that.
Yeah, no,
You do.
I mean, clarifying,
And I
it's
bel-
not a fixed price, it's a
Yes,
not
sir.
to
That's
exceed.
correct. It is not a flat fee, fixed price. It is a not to exceed, and just for the record, to make sure it's clear, this is a request to come in line with the legal services that are being rendered. As you all have seen, time that has been spent over the last 6 months has been under the original 36,000 not to exceed, so it has been cut. However, I think just the volume of legal services being provided, this brings it in line with what you're receiving. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I have a motion, I have a second. Do I have, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, now I get to ask for a motion. to
So
adjourn.
moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you all.